All right, David McKinney from standthemup.org here with Matt, the Minister Conahan, undefeated 4-0 fighter, fighting for the Pinnacle Fighting Championships lightweight title, taking on Eric Bledsoe at Pinnacle Fighting Championships number 5 on November 27th. First off, Matt, I know you wanted a title fight. I know you asked for a specific fighter, and just talk a little bit about that. I was going to wait till the end of the interview, but I thought maybe it might be best just to get it out of the way. There was a call out, obviously, after your last fight. Is that a fight that you're still interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. I called out Nick Brown, NyQuil, I think his nickname is. Nick NyQuil Brown. He has I don't know his record, but I think he only has one loss. He's fought my teammate, and that was for the last 155-pound title fight. That's a fight, yeah, definitely am always interested. I'm always interested in wanting just the best opponents. And Nick's a great fighter. He's a great wrestler, great with his hands, and I've just heard nothing but great things about him. So definitely a fight. If he doesn't turn pro soon, I'd love to set up, and maybe I'll see him in the pro circuit when I go up there as well, if he does.
And something that the Pinnacle matchmakers have told me about you as a person or you as a fighter is that you're a guy that they love because you asked for the absolute best competition. And it seems like for whatever reason, a lot of guys as amateurs don't really have that mindset of I want to fight the best. They want to build up their record as an amateur, even though it may not always make the most sense to have a 15-0 amateur record. Just talk a bit about wanting to test yourself early as an amateur before maybe eventually one day going pro.
Yeah, I always look to test myself. It's interesting. I mean, I think I perform better when I'm tested. Sometimes when I fight lower fighters, I think I perform sometimes even down. I think it just is. I think it's just the way I am. Even in wrestling, when I wrestle scrubs, sometimes my performance wasn't even that great, or where I'd like it to be. But yeah, I say, hey, you're gonna end up fighting. If you plan to be the best, you're gonna have to fight, the best. So
right.
Why not test yourself
early on?
Early on, exactly.
And your nickname, the Minister, I know that was shortened. Maybe I know I've heard the Minister of Pain, the Fighting Minister. Just talk a little about how you got your nickname. I mean, obviously, I know the backstory, but maybe some people out there might be interested in hearing exactly how you got the nickname, the Minister.
Yeah. So I want to get involved with youth ministry. My faith is central to me. At first I started coming in. The guys, I started with my teammates. They just knew that I was a religious kid and that I took my faith serious, and so they started calling me. It ranged from priest to reverend. A couple of them said, they just kept asking me little by little, just questions about my faith, and I just said, I want to be a youth minister. And so finally they said, it was actually Mick, the owner of this place, owner of Pittsburgh Fight Club, who gave it to me, and he said, you're the Minister of Pain. And so I said, okay, I've never been too picky. They can kind of call me whatever. Sometimes you'll hear them say, hey, Reverend, hey, Rev, our minister. So.
And as a guy who wants to be a youth minister, obviously you're around kids a lot. Do you ever find yourself in a precarious situation to where maybe you have to explain to some kids like why you're out there like beating people up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the most part, I think the faith is so sometimes looked at in the wrong way. I think sometimes men can't be men. You look at the Christian faith, and there was warriors, there was men who fought really the faith, and I think nowadays in the world, when people just expect a man to kind of just be soft, and so I think it's a good testimony to kids, just saying, hey, you can be a tough guy and still doing what you love. And what I love is competing, getting in there one-on-one with another guy, and seeing who's tougher and more technical and smarter. No, I think it's true. I have run across some good conversations with kids and parents, and it all just comes down to the intention in the end. I'm not going in there and trying to kill somebody. I'm not going in there trying to break someone's face in. I hope they're not either. I'm going in there to win, and I'm going in there to do what I've trained to do, and that's finish fights and If a knockout happens, if some cuts happen, if some bones break, then so be it. But there's no malice intentions behind it.
And I've seen you fight. Your last 3 fights, and every single time it becomes more and more impressive, as a lot of things that something I've seen a lot of fights and seen a lot of guys get in there, and usually within the first or second fight you can tell whether a guy's special. And I remember in your second fight, the first time I saw you fight, I really saw something special in you. I always like to say with Matt Layshock, the owner of Stand Them Up, that it's not my job to remember who you are. It's your job to make me remember who you are. And you're one of those guys that's just always stuck out in my mind. So just talk a little about, is that something that you, obviously you don't even know who I am or but you see that there's a crowd out there. And is that something that you kind of even think about on a daily basis, or not on a daily basis, but when you're going into the cage, that, hey, maybe there's someone out there that maybe I can make a new fan today? Just talk a little about that, because you've definitely made a fan out of me in your last 3 fights.
Oh, thank you. That really means a lot. Like, it's always an honor. We train really hard as fighters, and it's always an honor to hear people, just respond with respect. So thank you very much. Absolutely. I think there's a drive in every man in a competing atmosphere to be recognized. Not in a selfish way, not in a prideful way, I wouldn't say. I don't want the attention ultimately to be Matt Conahan. I want it to be, what this sport is and what this sport has given to me, and ultimately how it's transformed me to be a better man and live my faith. But no, absolutely. I try to improve every fight, capitalize on my weaknesses, and also really evolve in my strengths. When I walk out there, I try to stick to a game plan, which is finishing fights and finding a way to win. But at the same time, also testing myself and pushing myself through new barriers and sometimes even uncomfortable things that I sometimes might not feel 100% confident in, but I know that it might be necessary.
And speaking of making a lot of fans, it seems like you always already have a lot of people in the crowd cheering for you. Like I said, I've seen you fight in Ohio, I've seen you fight twice in Pittsburgh, and it really seems like you have that huge crowd, that huge support. Obviously, I know probably a good amount of it comes from the people who are in your church, or the people who back you, just as in your faith. But just talk a little about bringing that crowd and how that makes you marketable as a fighter to top organizations.
Yeah, my fans are the best. They're so loud. They're always asking me. Most of them I go to school with at Franciscan University. There's a lot who I also am a personal trainer at Anytime Fitness in Weirton. And so there's just a variety of fans, whether I go to school with, whether it's from work, whether it's just from people who I've met, even through fighting. And they're loud, they get into it. Sometimes they don't know everything that's going on, but they scream and they encourage me. I love having them there. It's always great hearing a big explosion of cheers, whether you're doing something right or if they think you're doing something right when really it's wrong. But it's just really nice. As for the marketability, I want to be the best one day. I want to really try climbing the ladder in this sport. And if my fans can help me, then I'd love it. As for now, I'm just really trying to focus on my weaknesses and also my strengths just every day in the cage.
Right, and we haven't really talked a lot about your fighting style. You're a guy that is naturally going to be a guy who I think a lot of people kind of gravitate toward as a guy that they like to watch fight, because you're aggressive. You don't ever really hold back. And if I had to describe your fighting style as one thing, it would be aggressive. Does that really, and I know that, that might come a little bit from the wrestling background and being comfortable, almost really wherever you go, so you're not afraid of a takedown, you're not afraid to throw a kick because of a takedown or something like that. But where do you feel like your aggression in the cage comes from?
Yeah, I definitely think it stems from wrestling. Wrestling, there's a lot of names that wrestlers or verbs that wrestlers throw around, the grind, they push the pace, they have an engine. I think one thing that's really great about wrestlers when they enter the cage is, cutting weight is familiar, and also conditioning is familiar to them. So it's always a good time when I can spar against other wrestlers, fight against other wrestlers. So yeah, I think the aggression, really, the root of it, comes from my wrestling. Just an in-your-face kind of, always pushing the pace, always keeping the wheel rolling, always moving, countering when I have to, but making a move out of everything. Whether that guy moves on me first, I move, or if I move, I got to keep moving. Yeah, the aggression definitely comes from that. I also think I just was a sometimes aggressive kid. Just growing up, I always had some high energy. So. Right. Forward is my direction.
Let's talk about first your last fight, then we'll talk about your next fight. You beat Daniel Kaufman in your last fight, a fight that really I thought was kind of a good, perfect test for you at the point in your career where you were a guy who had had a lot of fights, definitely a guy who maybe wasn't necessarily the top of the food chain, but a guy who was a tough enough guy to really test you, and I think that everybody who saw the fight would agree with me that you passed that, quote unquote test with flying colors. Just talk a little bit about, take us through the last fight, what your game plan was going in and how it ended up.
Yeah, I knew that Daniel Kaufman was a striker. I knew he was I think he was a karate or taekwondo type guy. So I knew he was familiar with kicks. He was comfortable in the pocket, exchanging hands when he had to. I also had seen him finish some fights with submissions, some of his YouTube videos. So I knew, he was just a great, well-rounded fighter, and it was an honor for me to get in the cage with him and experience a fight with someone with that much cage presence. I knew, so I knew he was going to throw some kicks. I knew his rear leg kick wasn't. He didn't whip it back as fast as he could. So I knew. Whenever I wanted to catch that, I knew it was going to be there after kind of watching some fights. But I also wasn't afraid to trade with him and expose some of my hands and kicks with him as well. I mean, I was willing to stand and trade with him, but I was also willing to go to the ground with him. He's a little funky on the ground. He's a little squirmy, and put me in a threat of situation, I think, once or twice with a knee bar, and it was a great test for me, and I'm excited for the next one.
And speaking of the next one, Eric Bledsoe, November 27th, the lightweight title. He comes from a gym and Bullpen Fight Club where their guys kind of have a known reputation. You kind of know what you're getting a lot of times when you fight guys from that gym. Meaning that there might be a little bit more grappling in this fight. Have you done any scouting on him, and if so, what's your game plan going into the fight?
Yeah, I know that Bullpen, they produce good grapplers, like you said, whether it's wrestling, whether it's jiu-jitsu. I know Eric's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I've seen him fight. I fought on the same card with him out in Steubenville, Ohio. He's an impressive fighter. He has good hands. It's good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, and I'm excited to test all the different angles he has to throw at me. And I have a lot up my sleeve with where I'm going to be taking this fight.
All right, and I know you have a lot of support in the fight, so anybody else you want to thank, anything you want to mention, now's your chance.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my teammates. My teammates are prepping me beyond prepping me for this fight. Without them, I wouldn't be prepared at all. I want to thank my family and friends and all my fans for just standing by me and encouraging me, and in words of encouragement and in prayers. And also my sponsors, United Eye Centers, One Strong Family. Families Forget About Me, I Love You. It's a nonprofit organization out in California, and really everyone's heard the WWJD, What Would Jesus Do? Family is really the call to that answer. Forget about me, I love you. Also, Born Free Dog Food, the Thirsty Squirrel Bar, Made Men Promotions, and I think that's all. So,
All right, man. Thank you very much. And check Matt Conahan 4-0, looking to move to 5-0 in the lightweight title fight at Pinnacle Fighting Championships #5.
That's it.